Hi Julian, hope you're okay. Quick video brief for you. I'll try and keep it as relatively short and brief as possible. Few things to mention generally within the medium term. The long term, particularly day 10 and beyond, is very similar at the moment in time. The usual uncertainties apply, but the general evolution there is similar. But short term in terms of the medium and long term, if that makes sense. Definitely a case of obviously get the mess out of the way of Friday, Saturday, and high pressure builds to the west, and as low pressure clears away to the northeast, it does introduce generally settled conditions, but as you highlighted in the handover email, and obviously as we sort of discussed yesterday, a potential cooler northwesterly, which does seem to be the case now. So main four global models into Sunday, start that theme, as you can see. So generally at the moment in time, day 4 I've kept similar. If anything, perhaps just brought the temperatures down a little bit. Emphasis on reasonable weather, particularly further south and west you are. Probably still a risk of some rain and showers in the north. Through into Monday, and the high pressure is probably increasingly more influential again. The primary four global models, excluding the GAM, which the deterministic GAM should be ignored. It's definitely an outlier that after looking at the various sources of pieces of information, you'll see that outlier shortly. But again, high pressure just to the west, extending a ridge east, and still not so bad. Relatively fine and dry. I've got at the moment day 5 into Monday, but again still edging your bets with a risk of some rain and showers perhaps in the far north, but they may well need to be removed nearer to the time. As you said, the temperatures do drop away. It's uncertain just how much they will drop away. I haven't gone too overboard with taking them below average or slightly below average. I've sort of just lowered them back a little bit, with perhaps more of a north and south divide, i.e. perhaps only just 13 and 14 in the north, but still perhaps 17, 18, 19 locally in the south, because as ever, this time of year, you do get that counterbalance of obviously the strong sunshine, so you can still get relatively high temperatures, irrespective of the northwesterly flow. But as you said, there's definitely dip in 850s in that northwesterly into the early part of next week, but a question mark over the temperatures. They may need to be drop down a couple of degrees lower in the next couple of days for next week, or they may not be too bad, but like I say, I've certainly dropped them down to nearer to average. So moving on to day 6, and day 6, which is Tuesday the 9th now, and relatively easy forecasting in terms of reasonable model wide agreement, and that is for high pressure obviously, which is just to the west of the UK on days 5 and 6. Days 4 and 5, to then move into the UK more substantially on day 6. Just using the various models, particularly the ensembles by this point. Here's the GAM, for example, and as you can see, it's got a low pressure route over the UK, way outlier from the midnight run of the GAM. So ignoring that and just skipping ahead to NAFS, and obviously here we are on Tuesday the 9th, getting my days mixed up. But yeah, here we are on Tuesday the 9th, NAFS. High pressures right over the UK, positive pressure and norm, pretty decent heights there, and obviously high pressure dominates. Very similar story from the GFS ensemble. The GEM ensemble obviously is very similar as well, and hence how you can determine obviously the deterministic model is a clear outlier. And finally, the GFS ensemble bias corrected is higher pressure as well. So day 6, Tuesday the 9th, high pressure builds in, fine and dry for most areas. There could be an east or northeasterly setting up shock across the far south, depending on the position of the high. So, which probably still wouldn't be too clever at this time of year. The sea surface temperatures around the UK are at or slightly below average, so any east or northeasterly across that far southeast corner may not be particularly clever. But again, those kind of details are uncertain. But I've got a risk of an isolated shower far north and far southeast, but give it to a number of forecasters and they might keep it in or they might remove it out. But general theme, increasingly fine and settled. In today's 7 to 9, which is now the 10th to the 12th, and again I had no real reason to change the layout to the back end of the 14 days. So just looking at the ensembles, here we have the Canadian, the GAM, just starting on the 10th, and just progressing through the sequence, you can clearly see that the high pressure is still dominant right through to the 11th and to the 12th. So the forecast for that period is the same as it was yesterday. High pressure is influential. As you can see, there's little or no risk at all of atmospheric pressure being at or below 1010 HP. Albeit not available just at the moment in time when doing this audio brief. The 06Z GFS is a similar general theme to the midnight run. So again, the overall theme, high pressure still there, 9, 10, 11, 12 ensemble means are 1023 to 1026. So again, still predominantly fine and settled from the 0Z GFS ensemble. And last but not least, obviously the 00Z EC ensemble EPS. And as you can see, 10, 11, 12, there's still a ridge over the UK. So general theme is clearly for the 7th to the 9th, and essentially the majority of next week to be fine and settled. Devil's in the detail, cloud amounts, sunshine amounts and exact temperatures, but otherwise days 7 to 9 little change. Days 10 to 14 have still not changed a great deal because the signal is for the high to decline. Just using the EC here for example, you can see by the time you get to 11, 12, 13 the high begins to ease away, and there's a signal clearly for lower pressure to become evident by the 13th, 14th, just to the northwest and north of the UK. And that general theme of lower pressure perhaps to the north and northwest becomes more apparent through that period, as obviously the high declines to the southwest, and clearly there's an increased probability of obviously pressure being at or below 1011 millibars to the north and northwest of the UK. So yeah, the general theme within that 10 to 14 day period is the same, and just finally looking at the overall ensembles altogether, and the period is the 12th, Friday the 12th to Wednesday the 17th, so again pretty much capturing that final block of the 14 day. So here we have the NAEFS days 11 to 15, and again high declines, more of a weakness, more of a trough pattern, potentially something even coming up from the south or southwest, so it may well lead to something more quite warm and humid and maybe thundery. Similar story from the GFS ensemble midnight, again something from the southwest which may well need watching, because as ever this time of year, you combine that setup of higher pressure to the east and southeast and lower pressure to the southwest, and it could well signal quite a rise in temps and something particularly warm and humid. GEM similar. The signal there is definitely not as strong as it was yesterday for higher pressure, which was the main signal yesterday. And last but not least, the GFS ensemble bias corrected, which is probably the most unsettled of the lot, with clearly marked trough in low pressure to the north and low pressure to the southwest, which again seems to be a developing feature, so one to watch that, because it could well signal quite a rise in temperatures and maybe a warm spell towards mid-month, but clearly potentially unsettled with it. So little change to the back end, relatively warm, potentially quite humid, but increasingly unsettled to some extent. So that's about it, and I will speak to you soon. Cheers, bye for now.